Hey guys, Professor Bell, Comic Book University, and Second Coming, issue number 1. Oh yeah, a whole lot of controversy behind this one. And let me just give you a forewarning. Without having read this book, if you don't like this book, you're probably not going to like the review. You're probably not going to like anything about here. So rather than getting butthurt and hate watching further, or God forbid, hate reading the comic book, just go away. All right? You'll feel better about yourself. For anybody who actually has a sense of humor, as I believe God has a sense of humor, I think this is actually okay. And have you ever read the Judas comic book that came out? There's like 5 issues, I think that was. 4 or 5 issues, whatever. Lot of controversy behind that. And it wound up being a book that was so beautiful that if you didn't cry at the end, I don't believe that you really do believe in God. I don't believe that you really do believe in God's redemption. Because that was a gorgeous, amazing, tear-jerking, cry-worthy story, man. Now, is this similar to that? Oh, hell no. Very irreverent take. It protects the figure of Jesus a lot in this because it stays very true to Jesus' nature, according to most religions. I mean, you put a Catholic and a Russian Orthodox and a Greek Orthodox and a Coptic and a Pentecostal and Episcopalian all in a church, and God forbid, a Seventh-day Adventist and 6 different versions of born-agains. They're going to kill each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be a bloodbath. But for the rest of us who can just look at things and take a skeptical eye, there's a lot of criticism about the God of wrath, the God of the Old Testament in this book. And they're all honest criticisms, aka questions. That if you are actually a good person, a good, faithful person, you'll either have the answers or you'll be willing to entertain the questions because they are legitimate questions. They are genuine, legitimate questions. There is some nudity in this book, and it is in the form of Adam and Eve who were naked. All right. There's the irreverent part is that the fruits of there were the 2 trees in the Bible that nobody's supposed to touch. Those 2 fruits, they're in the form of genitalia. Yeah, just saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, this was to me, this was a really good. It's not the good book, but it was a good book. I really like this. And this is a version of Jesus I can get behind. Speaking of versions, not virgins, those to be sacrificed later. You have Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man in Ahoy Comics, right? That's their version of Batman. Their versions of Batman. Here's their version of Superman, Sunstar. And I like this. I like that he's in this. Why? Because at the end of the day, he's basically God on Earth, right? And the conversation they have with each other is, oh wait, I didn't talk about who made this book yet. Let's get into that, then I'll tell you more about the book. Okay, so the creators of this book are the artist and the writer. And the writer is Mark Russell, the artist is Richard Pace. Leonard Kirk came along and did the finishes for the Earth pages. Andy Troy did the colors for the Earth pages. Rob Steen did the letters. The Closing Doors, which is another story in the back of this. Stuart Moore is the writer and the artist is Cayetano Valenzuela. Amanda Connor did the cover, and Paul Mounts did the colors for the cover. The colors for the cover. Paul Mounts, very famous colorist. Richard Pace did the variant cover. The logo is Jared Fletcher, and the design is by John J. Hill. Again, this is Ahoy Comics. Leonard Kirk actually told me in Niagara Falls Comic Con that he was going to be picking up for this after Richard Pace. I don't think that Pace is staying on this book, which is a shame. From what I understood from what Leonard Kirk was telling me is that he's going to be taking over the book from this point on, which, all right, fine. I really love his art. Peter David complimented Leonard Kirk as one of the only 3 people who ever really got his style, his way of doing things. So he's a very good art. He's been in art for a long time, so good. I'm glad that this book is going to be taken on by somebody who can take it on, and he's not so concerned with the controversy because whatever. Why didn't I tell you guys about it? Well, because Mr. Kirk asked me not to tell you guys, and I can separate as I told him, I can separate being a comic book reporter with being a fan of the comic books. I can separate those two. So as a fan, wow, thanks for telling me. I'm not going to tell anybody until the day a book comes out. This is actually the day after the book came out, but you get the gist, okay? In the meantime, you do have a very irreverent take on the God of old, but at the same time, he's also still a pretty good God. He's willing to punish criminals while they commit crimes. But as far as a lake of fire, no, there's no such thing in this. And I like that. I genuinely like that. There's a guy who comes up in the comes up to heaven. He's in the orientation to heaven. And he's like, they can't find my name anywhere. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, you weren't actually supposed to be here, bud. You weren't actually supposed to be here. And this guy's known for being a practical joker, and God basically plays a huge practical joke on him to teach him that practical jokes were mean. And the guy gets it. After he gets it, well, now it's all over. What's the need to go to Lake of Fire for crimes? I mean, we're all just as perfectly imperfect as we were created to be. And Jesus, who again is handled very well in this book, excuse me, a little irreverent, but not so much if you really think about it. The things that he's being made fun of for in this book are things that he actually did in the New Testament. He wants to heal people. And when Sunstar, there we go, Ahoy Comics' version of Superman, when this guy, Sunstar says, basically he goes in to stop a bunch of criminals doing, they're facsimileing Pokemon cards, Ahoy Comics' version of Pokemon cards, Monster Ball cards or something like that. And he's like, he beats up some people, and it's a really terrible crime, so he's got to hurt these guys, right? He comes out to interrogate the guys we threw outside, but they're gone. And he had Jesus watching the door because God put Jesus in this version of Superman's charge. Why? Because he's got to know what it means to be a real God. And the closest thing to God on earth would be Superman, right? So he says, what did you do with the where'd these guys go? Jesus is like, oh, I healed them. He said, you can't just go around healing people. And Jesus says, why not? So he's like, well, these guys were criminals. So Jesus asks him, why exactly were they criminals? Why are they doing evil? He's like, well, probably because they're in pain. But that's besides the point. And that's perfect. I'm sorry. I don't care how staunch or hardline you are or whatever. Don't tell me that you're a Christian if you can't 100% get behind the idea of a Jesus who would heal people, even the people who, in many of our imperfect eyes, don't think are worth healing. A real Jesus, the real Jesus, would want to heal everybody. He's about forgiveness. Jesus never condoned anyone going into a lake of fire. He changed everything that came with the New Testament. Everything. Although not a word or a tittle would be changed, right? Yet he did. He undeniably did. Let ye who is without sin cast the first stone, right? This was a really good take, in my opinion, on Jesus. I believe that there are going to be some cry moments coming up soon. I believe there are going to be some good moments, but it's going to piss off a lot of people too. The next issue is going to have a cover with Jesus in a gay pride parade. I'm sorry, what exactly is the problem with that? Because it's a loving God, right? And I don't think God needs to be in our bed sheets. I just don't see it. And again, that was Old Testament. That was Levitican law. And it's called an abomination. You know what the very next thing that's called an abomination is? Eating shellfish. And man, lobster sure is good, ain't it? Prawn sure is good, ain't it? Shrimp, loves me some shrimp. But that's just as much an abomination as a man and another man sharing a bed, according to the Levitican law, right? There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be pissed off like nobody believes. But at the end of the day, Jesus is the forgiving one. Jesus is the one who just wants to heal people. That's it. Because he believes in the best in mankind. In us very imperfectly created people. This is a much better book than anybody who never read the book, who refuses to read the book, who boycotts the book, and just wants to come here to give me a dislike for daring to like this book. Yeah. Anyway, I like this book. This book is going in my pull bin. Also, again, if you guys want to meet Richard Pace, who did this first issue, and will probably be doing the cover for the next issue, he's going to be at Gotham Central Comics and Collectibles right here in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. And you'll be able to get a signing with him. That's on July 20th. It's on a Saturday from noon till, well, probably until he gets tired and leaves. I'll be there, so you can come on in, high five, handshake, hug, good game, whatever you need. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, yeah, just come on in and hang out. Ask some questions, if you will. This is a good book, man. A genuinely good book. And again, there's the front cover and there's the Virgin cover, all in the same book. This is good stuff. Genuinely enjoyed this. And I think that if you give it a read and really think about who Jesus actually is according to the New Testament, I think that you might actually agree. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.